So this is the Youth Forum, and while everybody is welcome to be here, I do want to acknowledge our younger folks here who are from, I think you're in undergraduate school now, is that true? If you would all stand and one of you would tell us where you're from and if you have interest in entrepreneurship. Anybody? They're all being shy. Don't be shy. They were shy. Latifa said she was shy, so if she can do it, you can do it too. Anyone? Okay.
Hi, well, my name is Razan. I'm Palestinian. I'm a business administration student at the University of Georgia, minoring in human resources, and I would love to follow your path and become an entrepreneur that young ladies could look up to one day.
Thank you. So that's exactly why you're here for this panel. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and we'll try to have some audience Q&A at the end. But of course, where you start isn't always where you end up. I think there are very few people who know from the time they're a kid exactly what they want to do and where they want to be. So my first question to each of the panelists is, what was your initial training? What were your initial thoughts? And are you where you wanted to be, or did you end up somewhere different? Anybody can start.
So I might start with that. I'll actually talk a little bit about my career journey throughout, but to know me is actually to know the things I say yes to. So some really interesting fact about me is that I used to be a competitive eater. I used to compete professionally. And so that's actually one of the qualifications that I'm actually really proud of. And I said yes to eagle hunting in Mongolia. I said yes to running a women's conference in Pakistan. And I said yes to training thousands of Japanese middle-aged men on gender equality. Wow. And so that's the kind of things I said yes to, and to know me, that is like who I am. And in terms of qualification, I come from a background in marketing and branding. But the reality is, I think nobody's career is one linear line. It actually looks a little bit like a zigzag. So I started my career in a field in consulting that I actually didn't have direct qualification or experiences in. So I think the learning there really is to not restrict yourself on the path and know that you can pivot and evolve as time goes on.
Who's next?
I'm also from a really small town from the north part of Mexico. I'm from Sinaloa. I don't know if you have heard of that state, but we have a lot of drug dealer problems and insecurities. And I always wanted my state and my country to be shown as much more than just that, because Mexico is much more than whatever bad insecurities you have heard before. It is a beautiful country, full field of agribusiness and rich producers and a lot of really amazing people. That is not. We need to speak more about our good people, And I always thought about that. I always thought about growing a business in a man world, because in my case, as I'm from the small town from Mexico, it is really easy to get lost inside what men are doing there. And I'm not, I'm totally competitive, and with men or women, gender won't matter to me. But in my case, with men, it was, I couldn't understand how this could happen to my country and through the new generations that were looking to other women just being right next to a man. So I wanted to do something different, so I decided to move around, to travel a lot, to learn from other inspiring women, and that's why I decided to start my own company and to make things different, as you saw in the video.
Thank you, Sarah. Latifa.
My answer is actually very simple. Yes, I've always known that I wanted to be a businesswoman and business owner. And what? I had no idea, but I kind of always knew, because I grew up watching my father build his own law firm from scratch. I admired his perseverance, his hard work, and automatically it came to me like, yeah, of course I'm gonna go down the same route. Like, there is no question there. But I didn't know that I was gonna start very early, and I started in my sophomore year university, and I was very lucky to have my mentors and my support group around. But yes, the short answer is I have always known that I wanted to do this.
Excellent. So you've told us your inspiration. Sarah, I think you said you didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs. Well, who inspired? I'm sorry. Yes, Michelle. You sat in a different order. So, Michelle, you told us that you didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs, I believe. And so who inspired you to start your own business? Who or what?
As you mentioned before, I'm part of the biggest chamber in Latin America of the industrial sector, and I saw a lot of men and women growing their own businesses there. And I was always asking myself, how can I, as you said, how can I be there? How can I be them and better them, you know? And that's why, like, I saw that there's, you know, something different from where I grew up. And I think this is really important because right now I have a little daughter, and she's looking something totally different from where I grew up. So I'm really happy for that.
Excellent. And so you said you're also very competitive. Yes. But what inspired you to start your own business versus joining a company and doing that type of thing?
Yeah, so unlike your sort of story, who actually always knew that you wanted to start a business, I was very corporate, pursuing my career in the corporate world because I was actually progressing really well. I was getting promotions, and I felt I was really built for that world. But it was as I was going through my career journey, I was confronted by the lack of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. In Australia, when I was changing careers, I was told by 7 recruiters and hiring managers that, Sarah, you're young, you're Asian, you're female in Australia, I would just manage your expectation about how far you can go. I had people say that to my face. And so as I was going through my journey, I was confronted by these problems. And therefore, the reason why I started the Dream Collective, a global diversity, equity, inclusion consulting firm, really is to solve a problem. So for me, my encouragement to people who want to start their own business is always to start with a problem you want to solve. I started by solving a problem for myself that I was confronted by, but once I started on that journey, I realized how big the problem was, right? And how urgent it was to solve the problem. So I always say that, you know, entrepreneurship find me, and I want to stay very close to the sense of purpose, which has been referenced.
You know, there's a saying that men start companies, start businesses to make money. Women start businesses to solve problems and make money. So they're not mutually exclusive. And I think you've heard this from all 3 of the women here today. So I'm going to ask you next, as you became an entrepreneur, what skills did you find that you needed that you didn't have? What did you have to learn as you went along the way? And did you have any mentors or anyone you could speak with?
I can go. You learn as an entrepreneur that you have to wear many hats, and sometimes there's just no room for, you know, pausing things or putting them on hold. You just have to learn very quick. So the first thing for me was learn how to quickly learn things and develop the attitude of, well, if I don't know something, then I'll learn it and I'll do it attitude. The other thing is time management. That is the #1 skill you need to have for all the things that you need to accomplish as an entrepreneur. Another was learning how to lead the team and making sure that, you know, they're doing what they're required to do, but at the same time, make sure that they're happy to maintain a healthy work environment. I think that's very critical for a successful business. And lastly, it is socializing in business settings, networking, being able to speak publicly on stage. That is something I developed. I was so scared of speaking in front. I mean, they tell you this is like the number one fear after death, public speaking, right? I remember my first experience, I stood on stage and I was pitching my first idea, and I don't remember anything from it, nothing. I remember my heartbeat and my eyes, and I was this close to passing out on stage, and I just, as soon as the timer went off, I was like, thank God, I just want to leave, I don't care about winning. And I believe that I've come a long way to be able to sit and talk and share my story, so this is something that is very critical to make people understand what it is that you do, why you do it, and to also articulate it in a way for everyone to understand, because that is something that is not very easy. But
it's not easy at all. So I'm curious, how do you learn things that you need to learn along the way? And what did you do about your fear of public speaking? How did you learn to become the wonderful public speaker that you are?
So for the things that you have to do, there is no other way. You come to accept that, okay, so it all depends on me now. It's my company. There is no one else that. So of course you need to understand your limitations, right? And you need to know when to hire experienced people, and you need to trust them. But at the same time, you need to learn everything first to know what to delegate and who to hire. So you're kind of just in a situation where there is no escape. If you don't do it, your company is going to fail. So there is no alternative. So this is the reality of the situation. It is what it is. And for the second part is about public speaking. You just practice as much as you can. And you need to kind of let go of the idea that every single talk you do has to be perfect. It's not going to. We're humans in the end. So you have this, you're going to talk time and time again. And in that beginner phase, you're probably going to screw up a lot, and that's okay. You need to screw up in order to learn and then do better. So any opportunity that was available to me for speaking, like I said, one of the people who inspired me was my mentor at university. I'm very grateful for him. He pushed me to my limits, points where I was just like, I don't know if I like you or I hate you right now, but I'm going to do it. And I'm very grateful for him. So any opportunity that came about for me to speak, I went. Even if I had something tiny to share, it was more about building the skill rather than just, trying to deliver something perfect. And over time, you come to realize that you're speaking to humans in the end, right? So no one's grading you or you're like critiquing you. I'm not, So you come to realize I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easier than what you thought it would be.
Learning by doing, trials and tribulations. So Michelle, what would you like to share in terms of what new skills did you need to pick up when you started your business?
I will say that the most complicated skill for me, it was to understand that like 90% of the time what people were telling me that they wanted, they actually didn't want it. I needed to look further, I was like, but he just told me this, or she just told me this, and yeah, but she meant that one, or she meant those, and oh my God, and that is as you mentioned before, Latifa, you need to understand that the other side is human, and with their complexity and with their own, world inside. So it's for me, it was really complicated to understand what was behind the skin, from people. And actually, that's why at HOWY we decided to choose a method called behavioral science. I don't know if you have heard of this. Because when we understood that it's not enough, for example, regarding sustainability or, in my case, in the agribusiness sector, it's not enough to tell people that the earth is dying, that we will be 3 billion more people in 2050, that I don't know, that we won't have enough food if we don't change our behavior through our food systems, and a lot of really important stuff for surviving, not just for, not just for being better, just for surviving as a human race. It's not enough. And you can tell really good information, and you can spend a lot of money in marketing telling what is important. And I always asking myself, like, why, if I'm telling them that they are not going to live more than 40 years from now, they are still doing the same? Why why they are wasting? Why, the food, the current food system is so bad? Why? As I told you, why? How? Why? And in this case, which I get to know this behavioral science that helped me a lot, because it's all about to understand that people need to, the easy stuff. Even though they want to do some good things, if you put it too hard for them, they won't do it. Really, like separate garbage. They won't do it. If you put like really complicated rules to do it, even though they want it, they don't do it. So we need to be on the side, in our case, from smallholder growers, from bigger companies that are wasting a lot of money with food waste, and from their foods, analyze which steps they are taking, and then make new rules that they need to be easy for them, and then choose differently. And that's what HOWY's trying to do right now in Mexico. Sorry?
A seamless user experience, basically. Yeah, I totally agree. That's one of the challenges that I had to build my skills around as well.
Thank you. And so, Sarah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you picked up the pattern, but all the skills that have been mentioned so far are what we would call human-centered skills. So it's actually the skills that we need to succeed in this world today and tomorrow are no longer the technical skills. Like the technical skills, you can learn, that they are accessible, and it's actually becoming more accessible than ever. So it really makes us question, like, how do we develop our human-centered skills? And those are managing the team, because unless you can get a whole team of people together, unite them, manage them to perform and deliver an outcome, doesn't matter how good your business idea is, you won't succeed. So I think so much of it is actually about managing people, understanding the driver. One of the biggest things that I have had to learn is actually about humanizing the work relationship. I think previously people turn up to work, they're okay working with a boss who knows more than them. But now people are going to work, wanting to work for a boss who cares for them. One of the early feedback I had from one of our first employees in the company was actually, I asked her about, she just didn't seem very satisfied at work, and things were dropping. And I asked her, hey, what's happening with you, over the last week? What happened? Are you okay? She said, yeah, but did you know that you forgot my birthday 2 weeks ago? And I was like, oh gosh, sorry, firstly, I forgot. But secondly, I did not know forgetting someone's birthday would have such a big impact on someone's work and satisfaction at work. And I think that actually really taught me the importance and the reality that our work performance is so much influenced by how we feel as a person. The more we make people feel valued, better utilized, respected, and the better we can work with humans, the better the business outcome we can deliver.
So once you realize that, what are some of the things you do to make sure that your employees know that they're valued?
Dial up the care factor for people, right up. And I think it's actually a switch in my head that before I used to think I need to know everything and to know more than my team in order to have their respect. What I found and what I changed was that I just need to really care for them, be there for them, and problem solve together. And so that's really shaped how I interact with people, and just the openness I then invite for dialogue. Because when people start to underperform at work, the first thing I notice is that there's probably something going on, with people in the workplace or at home. And so it's actually about then having those really intentional conversations, helping them understand that, hey, we are here for you, and that you can bring your whole self to work. And so it's then informed how I manage people, but also how I connect with my team in a completely different way.
Thank you. So I was going to ask both of you, have you had similar experiences? How many people do you employ, by the way? And what do you do to make sure your employees feel valued? Michelle?
Well, I think we are still really small. We were just last week 14 people, and we are growing for 25 people this year. You know, it's all about, not everything, it's the quantity of people you have in your company, it's the quality of people you have in your company. And I don't know, the way you give your business yourself, I think it's more important to represent that in your business instead of thinking just in growing and growing, because as an entrepreneur, the more I grow, the more I'm scared, you know, like I need to pay more and more taxes, and I'm like really worried about it. So I think we need to stop thinking about that a bigger company is a better company, because it is not. And there's some sectors and some companies that weren't supposed to grow that much, you know, it grows what it grows. And other thing that I would like to add regarding my people is sometimes as a CEO or as a decision maker, you need to you start operating a lot. You start going to a lot of talks, to a lot of meetings, trying to increase your profits and to make bigger volumes and everything, and to make, you know, a good direction from your company. And then you start forgetting which are the ones that actually are operating your crazy ideas at the middle of the night, you know. And sometimes the moment you just give to yourself to put attention to your people is when somebody has a problem, as you said. And that's really bad, because if you're just putting attention to the people that is doing wrong, what about those people that are really, really good? So that I learn a lot about that, and I try with directors and managers to have at least some minutes by week just to ask them, how are you? Is everything good? Like, no matter if they're having problems or not. And I think this is really important to understand if you want to grow properly your team.
That is so true, because research actually tells us that managers or people leaders spend 80% more time with their underperformers.
Yes.
Because the high performers are so self-sufficient, they don't need anything, and they just go on autopilot. So you don't end up investing time with them, and usually things don't get uncovered until it's too late. So I really resonate with that point.
For me, I would say, I mean, there's a step that comes before the team management, which is making sure that you hire the right people in the first place. And you can only know so much from a few interviews, right? But there are some things I can still use to assess. Is this the right team? Is this the right person that I want to add to my team? It's not only about skill set, because some, you know, as Sarah mentioned, these can also be built sometimes. For me, it was very important to look at the character of the person, you know, to be able to trust them with, you know, this is my startup, right? I'm not talking about a big corporate or anything like that. So can I trust them with my baby? You know, can they help me take care of it and grow it? So first, you need to know that you're hiring the right people who you can trust to help you build it. And then afterwards comes the management. And I agree with what the girls, with the ladies, what they just said. And from my side, what I try to have in place all the time is making sure that we discuss, okay, we have this upcoming goal, for example, or this is going to happen this week. Let's all try to delegate, because sometimes it's not one person's responsibility. Every single member needs to put in something. And with a startup, all of us wear a lot of hats. We have a lot of outsourced teams as well that you need to manage. So you need to be very clear about what you need, 1, 2, 3, and then making sure somewhere in the middle, like, I understand, I trust that you're an outsourced team, but are you sure that you understand it fully, or do you need me to sit with you for another hour or two to revise things with you? So it's about the outsourced teams and the teams inside as well. I mean, full-time. So to have a healthy work environment and try to, you know, we assess, okay, are you feeling overwhelmed this week with what you have, or do you feel like you're not sure about this? No imposter syndrome or anything with us, right? So tell me, do you need my assistance with something? Or so we have to be very honest and open. And when you are the owner or the manager, you have to open that conversation, because they would feel insecure about starting it and think that you might think they're not competent, or it might risk their position. So it has to come from, up to down. And to kind of just make it clear, you have to be the one to start the conversation. Make sure everyone is in loop, everyone understands. And she's right about what she said. So that's why I'm, about the 80% of your time goes to the underperformers. I always try to make sure that we don't hire people who don't have the expertise, especially that, our time is very limited with what we can do. But definitely be very clear about what you need. Ask them all the time if everything is okay, if they need your help. And to make room for honest conversation.
Thank you. So let's get to the brass tacks of starting a business. It must be scary, awfully scary. And you have to have some revenue at some point so that you can pay your employees. So how did you start your business? Did you bootstrap them? Did you get some capital or funding? I mean, how do you start your business day one?
So my story is actually quite unique. I think I'm not quite sure. I'm keen to hear your experiences. But the Dream Collective to date, I'm still the sole shareholder of the business. So I bootstrapped the business. I actually went out and sought funding from venture capitalists. As you can imagine, like a few years ago, nobody actually was talking about diversity and inclusion. Most certainly, none of the venture capitalists were interested in investing in such businesses. And so I knew that there wasn't a seat for me at the table. So I just thought, you know what, I need to create my own table. And that I did. So what happened was that we started actually just creating a new different business model where we get clients to pay upfront. Right? So we created a few different campaigns that are quite innovative. So rather than actually getting clients to go on like a scheduled payment term, we actually help boost our cash flow upfront by getting all of the clients to sign up at the same time. The mandatory term of signing up was actually they need to do prepayment or at once. And that actually helped fund the business, that helped with the cash flow. And that actually continued to be the way of how we grew internationally. So usually when companies need to grow internationally, which we did, we operate across 6, 7, 8 different locations across APAC. We also did that based on our own profit. And so I would say a couple of things from my experience is one, a lot of times too much attention, I think, is spotlighted on how you can get venture capitalist funding. That's not the only avenue. Think outside of that, because sometimes that process is one that's very time consuming and you're just like, excuse my language, but like pushing shit uphill all the time, right? And so I think you really need to think hard about whether your business is the type of business that needed venture capitalist funding. And two, if so, who aligns and who are bought into your vision already that can help you propel that? And third is, are there different business models where you can explore to get cash flow and get funding otherwise?
So before I have Michelle and Latifa answer that, I have a follow-up question for you. What was it like for you do you sell mostly to corporations or middle-sized businesses? And what were those meetings like? Were there typically male executives you were talking to? And what kind of reaction did you get being young and female?
Yeah, interesting. So when I started the business, the business still actually is very much B2B. So we sell 90% of our clients are multinational companies. So all the big tech companies are Adobe, Spotify was actually one of our clients, NEC, Cisco, Google, Amazon Web Services, all the ones that you can imagine, Coca-Cola. And so we sell to multinational companies who want to create a APAC specific DEI strategy or program for them. That's our sweet spot, and that's where we come in. And also because over 70% of our clientele are in the technology sector, so that's the landscape that we're dealing with. I would say a lot of men, but also in the HR space who we sell to, there's actually a lot of female, but a lot of them are very white, right? So in Australia, like this just white generally, and that's usually very challenging because you don't get the informal networks, right? Like a lot of times clients, they will need services, but they don't go out. They'll speak to their friends and go, hey, do you know someone? Who did you use? And if you're not in those networks, you can't actually break in. So I really, once again, like in terms of skill set and the focus is where to focus on your time. If you're starting a business, really the most important thing is network. I wish it's not this way. I wish it's all meritocracy, but the reality is that who you know truly matters, and what they know about you will determine how far you can go and the opportunity you can access. So that's kind of like my long answer to...
No, that was great.
Yeah.
But I do want to follow up one more time before I get to the other two ladies. So your skill is in marketing, right?
Yes.
When you sat down, you didn't go around just knocking on company doors. Did you do your market segmentation? Did you use your skill from school, business
100%.
school, to target? And what were you looking for? What type of companies were you looking for when you put together that target list?
Yes. Great question. So being strategic about your target customer is so key. So I knew that because we operate in the professional services segment, having credibility and credential is the #1 key factor to success. So what do I need to build that? I need to be associated with the right company. So instead of actually getting whoever that we can land or whoever customer we can land, we actually went to the top key multinational companies who have a growing and big APAC presence. So we did a segmentation to go any publicly listed companies who have that need because they've got compliance, they've got public liabilities that they need to look at. We look at global companies who are leading the way in diversity and inclusion or any progressive work practices because we want to be associated with them, right? Once we build that credibility, guess what? If I tell people, hey, Spotify or Coca-Cola is our client, all of a sudden, you're elevated at the same level. And all of a sudden, referrals, trust, credibility come in. So I would say really don't just work hard. As women, we hustle, we work hard as it is already. Work smarter, be strategic, right? And once again, those people help you open up networks. And the other and final thing I'll say is if you go in with one client, we only went in with a client who has multiple offices in the APAC region. So we know that if we win one, we open up doors to 5 different locations. So rather than working really hard to crack each one of the 5, you do one and you do that really well and you succeed and you scale that way.
So your business development strategy is key because you can go broke just knocking on doors, and that's 100%. A great way of saying that. Yes. Latifa, how did you start your business? Did you bootstrap it? Did you go for funding? And I'm also curious as a follow-up, what is your interest in mental health? And as well, your interest in having the platform for ladies to make investments?
So, for your first question, I'm going to focus on Baytuki because that is the bigger company, I would say. And since we are a regulated financial entity, a lot of capital was needed just to get started, just for the licensing, just to hire the authorized individuals, I would say. So I actually had to win a few entrepreneurship competitions just to get some sort of credibility or validation to win or receive some funding into the company.
And what was that like, going into the competitions? Did you?
At first, it was very nerve-wracking, I would say. I knew that if I wanted somebody to invest in Baytuki, I had to win those competitions. And I believe it was my competitiveness that helped me win. I actually won all four competitions, I think they were, in the span of 1 year, just to get that validation. So we did get funding for Baytuki to get started. And we haven't raised funds from other individuals yet. So currently, we're still looking at, the next stage would be seed funding, and we're not looking at that yet. So that is to answer the first question. I did have to put a lot of effort just to get that initial funding. As for mental health, AE, I started out, it was my first project as an entrepreneur, sophomore university, and it wasn't planned, I would say. I mean, I studied business management and finance. I had nothing to do with this. But I had a friend come up to me and, you know, she went, I'm struggling with this, this and that. And every time I search online, it's just advertisements. I just need information, specifically in the UAE. I want to know what to do or where to go. So I tried to look something up. I also found advertisements. You know, I spoke to my co-founder who was helping me work on something else back then. And 2 weeks later, I received www.mentalhealth.ae. And I was like, what is that? It's blank. It doesn't open anything. It's like, that's our next project. It's just something to give back to society. We're not going to, you know, monetize it or anything. But, you know, next thing we knew, we had over 1,000 visits a day to our page, to our website. People were requesting for more. They were telling us, you know what, we need 1, 2, 3. Is it something you can do? And we thought, you know what, we have the business skills needed to do something like that, and we can build a network of professionals who can help. So right now it's an awareness page, and we connect people with the professionals that they need. But this is where my passion comes in. We're not monetizing. It's just we wanted to give something back. So that was for Mental Health AE. For Baytuki, I saw that I mean, a lot of studies show there's a gap between the number of female investors and male investors, and I wanted to understand why. Kind of bothered me. Like, why is that? So I studied finance. We were very comfortable always talking about money and money advice in my family, and I didn't think that was not the norm. So then I went out, I started to do my research. I spoke to, today I can say over 3,000 women, proper one-on-one conversations to understand why. Why are you not investing? What is the hesitation? What are your fears? Tell me more. And I came to realize that, you know, it comes down to 4 reasons. Lack of sufficient funds to invest in real estate. Now we're talking about real estate specifically. Not everyone has like a few $100,000 lying around to buy a property outright. A lot of them also, when they hear the word real estate or investment or finance, an image of a guy in a suit pops up and automatically it becomes yeah, maybe it's not for us. It's kind of intimidating. I don't want to approach it. So the lack of female representation in the market. And lastly, if somebody does have the funds, they don't have the time to invest in searching, looking at the property, vetting, looking at the numbers, considering all the risks before even investing, and then also maintaining the property. So I kind of took all those reasons, and I thought, you know what, Baytuki can actually address those. And it is our mission to empower, educate, and enable women towards financial prosperity, but through micro investments in real estate. Very small, affordable investments, and it's kind of like, it's co-owned. So the idea was to make it less intimidating, very accessible, and we are also a regulated, so trustworthy company.
So what skills did you have from your training that help you focus in on the company that you have?
So first of all, as an entrepreneur, you actually don't need all the every single you know, you don't need to be an experienced person in all the teams. Sorry, what is it called? The roles needed. What I knew was that I had the vision, and I wanted to get to that point, and my journey was figuring out what is needed to get there. So I built this skill set as I went, and then I had to sit back and see, okay, this is something that is a limitation. It's either going to take me too much time to learn, or just something that is just not for me. Okay, let's need to hire someone there. I need this here. Okay, let's see. This path shows me I need this type of person. Let's hire someone here. Let's outsource a company there because we don't need someone full-time. So that was the path that I took before. So it took me 2 years actually to become a regulated finance entity. If anyone is here knows that it's a very long and tedious journey. So I'm kind of grateful that this duration gave me the time to build the skill sets needed to be where we are now and be able to you know, overlook operations and manage my team effectively. But that journey helped me figure out what I needed to build and what I needed, or who I needed to hire for the other stuff.
It's a wonderful description because it's a journey, not a destination, right? And you pick up things along the way, and sometimes you switch paths. So a great way to describe it. So Michelle, I know we've had some long questions, but take it away. How did you get started?
Well, my case is completely different. As you mentioned, I had another company named Somex. This was regarding people, a much bigger company. We were almost 200 people, going on and forward. But COVID happens, And I found myself on, I think it was February when everything shut down at COVID. And I found myself, stuck with a lot of employees. I've always dedicated myself to food, so food was trying to survive, and it was the only thing that was trading in that time in order to food security, as I know the Emirates is one of their main goals to reach. But what happened to me is that first, my clients stopped paying me. Imagine that they had, 30 days of credits, and they were asking me, can I pay you at 60 days? Can I pay you at 90 days? Then can I pay you at 120 days? And I was like, no, no, please don't. You're going to kill me right now. And I don't know how it works in your countries, but in Mexico, for the agribusiness, in 90% of the cases, you need to pay in cash to producers. So they are daily surviving in this case. And if you're not paying to them, they are not going to eat that day. So it's really, really difficult. And I had to have cash in this side, and on the other side, they were asking me for 120 days of credit, huge companies. And I was like, what am I going to do? And this is in a middle advice, and my partner practically disappeared. And I was alone with this. I just had one partner. Right now, I don't have partners. You need to choose very wisely your partners. And I was really, I shocked. And this was March 10. And then on March 16, I had the news that I was pregnant. And I was like, wow, what else can happen? And then COVID was like, what? You don't even know, lady. And then I found myself with 3 huge stuffs mixing at the same time in my life, getting pregnant, being a mom. And I don't know if some of the ladies here are moms, but it's a journey as well, to get pregnant, to know what type of human you want to be for the kid you're going to have. And then your business is crashing, and on the other side, the whole world is closing up, and you are totally disconnected from everybody. And I got a little bit depressed, as you can imagine, and my business, I decided to close it. And that's, I think, the most difficult decision I have ever made in my life, to hire a lot of people and to analyze what I can do better, And in this case, 2020 was 3 years ago or something. Time goes on. And then when I was in this particular part of my life, I started asking myself, how this is happening? Why this is happening? And that's why, I decided to try to make something not from zero, because I needed to pay all my employees and I needed to close everything I did before with 26 countries. 26 countries. So it was really crazy. So in this case, I decided, even though I was minus something from starting another business, I was totally closed in my house. I couldn't go anywhere, because as I was pregnant, they didn't know at that time if I am going to die if I touch something, So I decided to just stay in my house. And then I started thinking, yes, but, I have a brain. I still have my brain. I have a heart and it's beating. I can do something good with this. And I have my computer and I have internet and I can pay internet, And then, well, my brain, in this case, helped me. I started connecting in a consultancy part because before I was just practicing it, you know, I wasn't consulting. And then my husband helped me a lot with this, like, yes, you need to help others. That's to make sure it won't, they won't pass what you just went through, you know. And that's why I founded HOWY, and HOWY is practically based on all the things that we did wrong at Somex, plus all the regenerative and sustainability part that is part of myself. And if I, like combining with COVID, if I'm going, what I thought is if I'm going to make this work, I'm going to make it myself, without partners and with my beliefs. And I want my kid in that part to be proud of me, of what I'm going to build right now. And that's how I started.
So you make lemonade out of lemons, right?
Yes.
Found a way to get through that.
Yes. Yes, I did.
We are going to have time for questions, so if you have questions, just jot them down so that you don't forget. And we have 2 mics, but I'm going to ask 2 last questions to the panel for each of you. What are the challenges for you going forward? What's your vision for your companies going forward, and what challenges do you see that you'll need to overcome in order to get where you want to go? And we'll start with you.
So our vision for the Dream Collective is to become synonymous with diversity, equity, and inclusion for the Asia-Pacific region. So when people think about diversity, equity, inclusion, they think about the Dream Collective, and that's what we want to be known for. So in terms of the challenges that I anticipate, to be honest, I'm not afraid of the challenges that I know. I'm afraid of the challenges that I don't know yet. I think and that is what we're dealing with here in 2023 and beyond. And that is what's partially exciting, because I hate predictability. Like if I know what tomorrow looks like, I'm like really bored, like, you know. So I love embracing a world that's unpredictable, that's somewhat volatile, and that's the reality of the world we live in today. But the flip side of that is we need to equip ourselves for so much uncertainty. And how do we do that is through, I think, a couple of key things. One is adaptability, right? We need to be adaptable. We need to evolve constantly with the situation. And 2 is that we actually need to be able to think on our feet. You know, like what you said, like coming across crises and challenges, and just the ability to remain calm and think through, what have you got? You know, I've got my brain, I've got resources, let ideas come and actually go on that process, right? And also the third one is to be resilient. And I think sometimes that it can just sound like a really vague term. Like, what does that mean by like being resilient? Is actually the ability to fall and get back up, fall and get back up. And we learn so much through failures. We don't learn nearly as much through successes. So the reality is that the challenges that are really hard are the challenges that we can't anticipate. We don't know what they are, and yet we need to equip ourselves ready for it. So that would be my observation, and I'm excited for the next chapter and the journey ahead for the Dream Collective. And I always tell my team, if we have those qualities in place, then we will be able to face and respond to and even pioneer in tomorrow's world.
Thank you, Latifa.
So for Baytuki, just to clarify, it is a crowdfunding platform for real estate investments. So that means that people have to put their money together to own a property, co-own a property, and then it's managed by Baytuki. So for a lot of people, this idea is very new. It's not the traditional approach. And to put that sum of money online as well, and not to visit an office or something in person, is challenging for many. So for us, it is to have to continually try to be visible as much as possible, explain as much as we can online, or even have events in person to just build that trust with the investors. So the first part is definitely that, and to introduce that even though it is a new idea, it is regulated and it's still investments in real estate, and that is a challenge we still face, and I know we're going to continue to face. Another part is we are currently, it is about competition. We're currently one of 3 players in the entire UAE market. There are no other companies, but I know that there will be more because it's a very promising market. And we have to continually innovate, be on top of our game to make sure that we don't, fall behind. And the other part is risk management. So again, we're talking about investments. I'm not selling a product. It is, a service that I'm selling, and it's a kind of a commitment because you're giving us your money, to invest in real estate, and you have to trust us to manage that for you until the sale. So it's kind of a journey, a whole journey with Baytuki. So the risks are that, we have to vet everyone. We have to screen them from business partners to clients, and also vet if the investment opportunities are promising or not. So all the forecasts, again, that we have to do, of course, we have an expert team. So the risk management also plays a part. And then the last thing for us would be growth. We are growing quickly, and we need to adapt, think on our feet to be able to accommodate all the investors and grow the team with, maintaining the quality, if not even better, to make sure that we deliver on our promises.
Thank you. And Michelle?
Well, I'm thinking about many challenges right now. I think I have more challenges than solutions right now in my head, but I will say everything we are doing is not automated. Automotive, yeah, automotive. So we just have like 30% automotive. I want to go 100% automotive, while still connecting with smallholders, farmers, and with big companies, because it's really complicated. In our case, it's like, yeah, you need to give them money. Yeah, they don't have ATMs. How we do this? And, oh yeah, but you can donate money. Yes, they don't know how to administrate or manage money. How will you teach them? And well, they don't know that they can get paid better internationally. Yeah, but they need to know about blockchain, logistics, cold chain, and a lot of technical stuff. How we can, that's the main challenge for us, how we can all the time connect with smallholder farmers and bigger bigger markets and bigger regions forget to improve their life and at the same time don't lose their essence, because it is really important to maintain their essence as well. So big challenges for us as well.
Exciting.
Challenging,
but exciting.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask one quick, short question to each. So start lining up the mics. There's a mic on this side. There's a mic there if you have a question for our lovely entrepreneurs there. And my last question is, when the chips are down and you're having a really bad day, how do you take care of yourself?
Spa.
Do you have an ongoing appointment with the spa that you cancel when you don't, or do you just do it once in a while?
No. I normally try to, exercise more, eat better, be more hydrated, and yes, I think you didn't ask that part, but I will tell the audience. Normally, when we have a really busy day or busy operating companies, we don't put in our agenda just to think. Like we will normally have, I have meeting from 10 to 9 and then to 10, and you have like a lot, endless meetings. And when are you thinking? When you put yourself like from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. or to 5 p.m., please, I'm busy, I'm thinking. I'm not operating, I'm not talking with anybody, I'm thinking, I'm reading, I'm listening to some other person, but I need to think. And when I stop thinking and just operate, I start to get worried and to see problems bigger than they actually are. So it's not just like, it is really important to take a step away from the problem and to do other stuff, but also to think, and it's really basic, but it's really important to take good decisions later.
I have to say, that's the number one thing I hear from entrepreneurs, is you have to schedule time to work on your business instead of in the business. And the in the business is the daily thing, but you just have to schedule it. Otherwise, you never think. So thank you for sharing that. Who'd like to go next? How do you take care of yourself?
So a couple of thoughts. Number one, understand that your career journey, entrepreneurship or not, is a marathon, not a sprint. Right? So you absolutely need longevity. And so one is understanding that it's a long race. Don't use up all your energy at one time. That's really important. Two is make sure you have a training partner. So for me, that's my husband, who's really supportive and who supports me and who really is the emotional anchor. And it's great if it's a partner, but if it's not, who do you have around you that can support you? Because you can't run this marathon alone. You can't. I'm just going to tell you right now, right? So who do you have around you that can support you through the ups and downs? And finally, I think a really important thing that I see in people is that when they say they're tired or they're burnt out and they need rest, they don't understand which type of rest they need. If you Google it, there are actually 7 types of rest for people. There's physical rest, emotional rest, social rest, creative rest. Which one is it that you need? So a lot of times I see people, entrepreneurs, who go, oh, I'm so burnt out and, I've just had a week of doing nothing and I come back and I still feel exhausted. Why? Because you're probably not getting the type of rest you're after. So I would say be really intentional in uncovering what type of rest you are after, and be really intentional about the people that you have around you. And the last thing I'll share is that in the book Lean In by the former CEO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, she said the most important career decision a woman can make is who is she going to marry and if she is going to marry at all. And I think having that training partner around you, whether you have it or not, who it is, doesn't matter, but you can't run the race alone. So find someone who can cheer you on.
Well, I'm a lifelong learner. I like to learn something new every day, and I learned there's 7 types of rest. So I'm going to look that up and Google it when we get done. Latifa.
For me, first I need to be proactive, and then when a bad day comes along, then I kind of need to manage accordingly. So first is to have really healthy routines in place. Some days you're not going to be able to do them, and that's understandable. Our lives are very much up and down. But you need to have your healthy routines in place, and schedule them in. Like, in the morning I'm going to work out, and then I need to have my breakfast. Because when you're really busy, sometimes you even forget to have your meals, and that kind of doesn't help, it leads to burnout very quickly. So your meals, your workout, and then time off, definitely. That is something I actually learned recently. I'm very excited, okay, I'm going to schedule everything. Let's do all that. And then I forget that I'm a human, I'm not a robot. And I need that time off just to kind of, a buffer between meetings or, for example, day event, day not, like something in between to allow me to sit, reflect, and then work on my business and not in it, as you said. So that is number 1. Number 2 is when you're having some challenging days is to be able to take a step back and start journaling, write them down. So today I had this, and that. Sometimes you don't even know what's bothering you. So you write them down and you come to realize, oh, okay, so it comes down to this. Now, is it something I can work on, or is it something that's out of my hands, or is it something I can ask for help with? So to be very honest with yourself and to have those practices in place, really tiny things go a long way. And I find that these practices help me a lot. And more often than not, you would find entrepreneurs always working, even on weekends sometimes. And I always find myself overworking and then carrying stuff like, okay, I can't work on this. I'm going to work on Saturday and Sunday as well to make sure I finish them. And I am training myself to just manage my time in a better way, to put space between the events or meetings or really big tasks or goals, and at least to have like one day a week where I switch off, a little bit so I can work on my business, be a bit creative, have some me time. I like my novels. I like to spend time with family and friends. You need those as a human to kind of refresh and start again. You're always going to have good and bad days. That's not something that is non-negotiable, right? But you need to have those practices in place to kind of make sure that you don't burn out. And then if you do, then I would go with what Sarah advised and to know the type of rest that you need.
Who works in the office every day and who works from home?
I do hybrid, and I've got no routine in the day because I just don't operate like that. So I think it would just offer a different perspective. I think having routine is fantastic, something that I'm actually working towards too. But if you're someone who doesn't work with routines, I think that is equally feasible, but you just need to find a healthy pace. But for me, it's hybrid, so I do 2 days a week in the office, the rest of the day working from home.
In my case, it's hybrid as well, and it depends on the week, and it depends on my mood as well.
Same here. I don't like to travel to the office if I have a really busy day. I find that I'm more productive when I'm just on my desk. And yeah. Oh, by the way, what I meant with routine is like to work out, to have the meals, and just like, for example, a wind like in the evenings, what is the exercise that I do to just wind down, right? So you don't think about your work and dream about them and then wake up also thinking about it. So to have those in place. But none of my days look the same at all. Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for sharing your authentic selves. I think you've really given us a great picture of you, and I hope our university students here especially appreciate that it is a journey, not a destination. We all have ups and downs, and to persevere. And